everybody. My guest today is the owner of Soundguy Productions and has done many things professionally over the course of his life. What I love most about this guy is he is a hustler. He never gives up, no matter what's going on. Things are going great, or if he's going through a rough patch, he never gives up. He's always right there back in it with a smile on his face. He's an awesome guy. His name is Rich Morris. So yeah, this is some crazy times right now. This is the first time that I've done an episode since this happened. I did 6 before all of this shit went down, and so the last time I recorded one was with Steven. You know Steven, right?
Oh, yeah.
Vanvort. And that was on, I think, March 8th. And then everything kind of blew up March 11th. And so, yeah, I couldn't get anybody to come over here. I was asking people in April, and everybody was like, no, we're still worried about it. You know, we don't want to do it. So I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Definitely.
So why don't you tell everybody kind of your background and what you do and why this is difficult for you too?
Well, let's see. I mean, I was born in Portland, kind of raised in the area, kind of between here and Cottage Grove, which is down in the Eugene area. I started playing guitar when I was about 17. Mm-hmm. By about my late 20s, I'm like, this rock star thing ain't panning out the way I planned it. Yeah. I got to figure out something else to do. And I always kind of messed around with, doing sound on little 4-tracks and stuff. And so I ended up going to school to learn how to do sound and loved it. And then after I got out of school, I worked for a couple sound companies. Didn't really like the way they were doing it, so I started my own. Mm-hmm. And basically just doing club sound for, small concerts and stuff. Then end up getting a job at the convention center, and that kind of opened my eyes to the corporate side of things where, well, this is cool. I could do what I like to do and make money. This is kind of awesome. Yeah. But I always come back to the music side of things because I still just love being involved in music. And so I've kind of played the music side of things and then the corporate side of things, but it's always interesting to me because there isn't just doing sound for a band or just putting a microphone in front of somebody. There's the lighting and the video, and there's just so many aspects, and I'm intrigued by it all. And I want to learn it and be the best that I can at it, and incorporate that into my business, which is really weird because it's like started out as Soundguy Productions because I'm doing sound for concerts, but now I'm doing lighting, I'm doing some video, and I have staging and all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of broadened beyond what I initially intended it to be, mm-hmm. which has been cool. It's like, I think that where you get stuck in business is you have an initial idea and you just stick with that. And where you really don't know where the business is going to take you. And it's been intriguing to see where the business has taken me versus where I wanted the business to go. Now with this whole COVID thing, all of a sudden, everything I've done for the last 20 plus years, I can't do. I can't do sound for concerts. I can't do lighting for concerts. I can't do, production for events. So it's like, well, then what? I got to kind of step back to where I was 20 years ago and reinvent myself. Mm-hmm. Which what that is, I don't know. I'm still working on it. I got this job at Amazon to just kind of pay my basic bills right now while I figure it out. That's definitely not a career move. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of getting me through the meantime.
Mm-hmm. And so what was the process like getting hired down there? Is there just like a line out the door? Are they just...
So most of it is doing it online,
Mhm.
and then they have you come down, they take your picture. You have to go through like this video and stuff like that. And then, take a drug test, all that kind of stuff. Well, I was the last one of what they call the blue badge, which is like a full-time employee. Everybody after us has been seasonal. So a friend of mine, he went in a couple weeks after we did, and he goes, yeah, they wanted my ID. They took my picture. All right, here's your start date. Get out of here. Next. And so they were going through. I mean, at one point, I think I seen a line of like 200 people standing out there waiting to get jobs.
That's crazy. And I mean, if they wanted to, could they hire 500 more people, or is it?
They're still hiring people.
But I mean, like, is all the space taken up by people right now? Would they have to build a bigger warehouse?
And that's what I don't know, because they said that the building is about 1 million square feet. There's 3 floors. I haven't even seen the top 2 floors.
Serious?
Yeah. So I'm just at the bottom floor and in one certain spot. So I can kind of see the dock. I can kind of see where like the robots and stuff are. So there's just stuff I can't even see on the first floor, let alone what's going on the other 2. And that's just the Troutdale location. Yeah. There's also Hillsboro. There's North Portland. Mm-hmm. I think St. Helens. Wow. That's just in this area.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And to see, there's just miles and miles and miles of conveyor belts, and they're all, electronic, and, everything's like has a barcode on it. So it's getting scanned, and the technology on the thing is just intriguing. Mm-hmm. And then I'm kind of thinking about it, and it's like, well, geez, there must be probably $1 billion worth of, technology in here.
Yeah.
Let alone, all the products. And it's impressive, you know, when you look at a guy that basically started a business in his garage to this, what it's become. And I think I read something about there's like 75,000 plants of these warehouses
in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like just the one is beyond my mental capability of how do you grow that from scratch, let alone 75,000 of those.
Yeah. How you scale it like that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I have no idea how you would even begin to do that. And I mean, a lot of it is centered around the idea of Prime, right? Getting packages within a few days. Because I imagine the ones you're pulling down here, those are probably 1-day delivery, right?
I think so.
It's probably somebody's typing it in, it comes to you, you're throwing it out. Like, it's all happening within an hour, probably.
Well, I mean, since the whole COVID thing happened, because since I got in when things were still kind of normal, I mean, it was fast. And I was asking, because it can kind of keep track of how many units per hour you're doing. And I think I was doing about 750, which is a lot of product. And they're like, yeah, the average is about 1,200. And so then they slowed everything down for social distancing and stuff. And I'm kind of averaging between 600 to 800, and it's like, I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but you can only go so fast when the product's only coming at you so fast. Yeah. So they've slowed everything down a lot, but they're still getting the products out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's putting more pressure on other plants, or I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird business.
Yeah. The craziest thing to me is how they decide what to ship to you. Like, how do they must have some sort of algorithm where it's like, this is selling really well right now, let's ship a bunch more to Troutdale.
Right.
Maybe people in the area buy more windbreakers or something. I don't know. But yeah, to fill the section, because you're not actually putting the product in the section, right? You're just pulling the product from and sending it out.
No. So what, and this is where, because I don't see everything, I don't know exactly how it all works, but it seems like that they grab the products, put it into a tote, the tote comes down and somebody scans each one, puts it in a tray. The tray goes through, comes down this huge conveyor belt, and it just starts kicking it out to, the section it needs to go to. So then it'll come up, we'll grab it, put it in the wall, they'll grab it, and then put it into a box and then ship it out. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting how many people it goes through before it even goes out the door. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know exactly how the whole thing works. And how it happens so fast. So, it's like somebody will order it, they'll have, these totes come down with just a bunch of stuff. So I think that it's like, well, they've had 14 of this item ordered, so they just throw a bunch into this tray, and then it gets kicked out to the certain areas where it's going to be shipped to. Yeah. And the technology is crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's the other question too, is like, how much longer do they need you as a human to do it? Like you just said a minute ago, they have robots in there. Right. Why don't they have robots doing what you're doing right now?
Well, I think they're still developing that technology.
But it's close, right?
I think it's getting close. Mm-hmm. I think that there's some things where you're always going to have a human involved in it. But I think it's going to get to the point sooner or later that it's going to take care of, 90% of it, which makes sense from a business standpoint, because then you don't have to pay an hourly wage and benefits and, paid time off and all that kind of stuff. So just build a robot for $250,000 and let them do their thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, because right now they're probably one of the largest employers in the country.
I read something about when all this started, they were planning on hiring, I think like 100,000 people. Man. And that the first quarter of 2020, they did $75 billion in sales.
Damn. And that's not even filling all the orders that they wanted to.
That's going half speed.
Yeah. No, I bought some, I can't remember what it was, just like some regular item. The first week of April, and it was supposed to be Prime, and it took 4 weeks to get here because it got shoved down the list for all the essential items, I think. Right. Yeah. And now it's back on Prime. Like I ordered something the other day and it came within a day or two.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it's not all sold by Amazon. They're basically fulfilling orders for other companies. Mm-hmm. And so then you have somebody that's selling toilet paper. Well, then all of a sudden, it's what, $30 for a case of toilet paper, where it should have been $10. And so they're trying to...
do the prices go up on Amazon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Amazon itself. It's just the people that they're fulfilling the orders for. So they were trying to shut those down as quick as they found out about them. But even like, so I was trying to order this box to do live streaming, and they're about $130. Mm-hmm. They're $350 now. If you could find them.
Yeah, they're all on back order. Yeah.
And so I did end up finding one for $170, but it was coming from Germany, and it's stuck in the Netherlands for the last 12 days.
Yeah. There's a bunch of black magic stuff that got put on back order for weeks and weeks, because, dude, they can't make it fast enough. Everybody that was doing something out in the world is just like doing it in their house now.
Exactly.
And streaming it.
Well, you have all these, bands and artists that they can't go do shows, so they're doing, in-home concerts. Mm-hmm. And, you can only do so much with a phone, so then you try to have a couple cameras, and then you have to have the black magic stuff. And so then all of a sudden they're completely sold out. And then you have like the churches doing like the drive-in services. So the, the FM transmitters, to be able to send it from the mixing board to a radio station. Yeah. You can't get one of those either.
Really?
They're all sold out.
Well, I saw that there's a bunch of drive-in theaters that are like coming back now too,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
I think that is so cool.
Yeah. I had only been to one once, I think, and it was up in Hood River. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah, there was one up there, kind of up on the heights, and it must have closed down, like, because I was young. I was probably like 10 or 12 or something, so it must have closed down in the 90s at some point.
Really?
Yeah. But the fact that they're coming back, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, dude, it's like a relic of history that most people don't even know about.
It is, but it's kind of weird too, because the whole thing with the drive-ins back in the 50s and in the olden days was a social gathering.
Yeah.
So, you go to the drive-in and then just hang out with all your friends, you'd meet at the concession stands. Well, how do you have a social distancing, social interaction? And that's where it's so bizarre right now, because it's like, I get we got to stay safe, and I get that we're craving that human interaction. Well, how do you find that balance?
Yeah. We were talking about it a little bit when you got over here about how at the start, everybody kind of didn't know what was happening. And so everybody kind of locked down really quickly, which was good.
Right.
And probably helped a lot of people not get sick and a lot of people not die. But yeah, now it seems like everybody's been chilling inside for 8 weeks, and people are just losing it, man.
Right.
They're losing it. They're ready to get outside and do something.
And I think some of the issue too is that it's like, well, we have this serious pandemic going on and we need to take it seriously. I absolutely agree with that. But it's like people are losing their businesses that, have spent their lives building. And on top of it, I think they said between February and March, suicides were up 336%.
Wow.
And it's like, and I've read a few articles where police are just going from domestic violence call to domestic violence call and domestic violence call. The only thing that's down right now is child abuse, because it gets reported at school and none of them are in school.
Well, I saw something about that too. The other thing that's down right now is school shootings, because no one's in school.
Well, that makes sense.
I know, right? I saw that and I was like, duh. I guess that's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been weird. I mean, I know everybody's trying to deal with it in their own way. Right. And some people are trapped in a house with people they don't want to be around, and other people are alone. And dude, you go a few weeks without talking to person face to face or even like hugging someone. It's weird.
Oh yeah.
You start craving that human affection and you don't even realize that you needed it. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's definitely even important for single people. It's like you see your buddy, give them a hug at the bar or whatever, because it's like you still have to have some sort of physical contact and, just to kind of feel a part of society and, have that friendship or whatever, and to be kind of take that away and then, be at home by yourself. And I think that the biggest issue right now is that you have all these people isolated in their homes, stuck with their own thoughts, that haven't dealt with issues during their whole life. And it's like, well, now you have to think about it and deal with it. And, and it's going to affect different people in different ways. Some people are actually going to kind of work through their stuff. Some people are going to be drinking all the time. Some people are, are just going to drive themselves crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That has been, a super important thing for me to learn about myself, in that you have X amount of hours per day where you usually fill, if you're lucky, you get 8 of them are sleep, and then 8 of them are work. And then, you really only get like 4 or 5 more where you're doing something you want to do.
Right.
And when this is going on, nobody's working. Maybe you're sleeping more, but you're not doing anything you used to do. You're not going to restaurants. You're not hanging out with your friends. You're just basically drinking or watching TV or whatever. And there are so many people who need a purpose. Even
absolutely.
Even if it's just going to work at Target or whatever, like that fills a certain amount of your day and like helps you feel like you accomplished something.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I'm, as hard as the job is, I'm blessed that I have something to do, because I've struggled with depression. Yeah. I have most of my life, and I'm scared to see what would happen if I was stuck in my house for, 60 days by myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I have something to do to occupy my time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool that, I mean, that's one of the cool, I've known you for a long time. That's one of the coolest things about you is that no matter what's going on, you're always hustling.
Oh yeah.
Like you've always got like 3 things on the back burner. You're making money over here. You're making money over there. You're doing a charity over here. Right. You got some music project going on. Like you're always hustling. And when you told me
doing something,
you're always doing something. And when you told me that the other day, you're like, yeah, I got a job at the Amazon warehouse. And I was like, what? Of course you did. I was like, man, that's cool.
Yeah. Got to do something, and I think that a lot of it was my dad. He had an auto body shop and a towing company, and he was a business owner, constantly hustling, trying to get work, but he was cheap. So who do you think's going to work for him? His kids.
Yeah,
and of course,
free labor.
And of course, we're working cheap, and so I learned to work hard early. Yeah. And by the time I got out of high school, I had 2 jobs. When I was in college, I had like 5 part-time jobs while I'm going to school, and I like being productive.
Yeah.
And it's a double-edged sword, because I think in some aspects I don't deal with some of my underlying issues, but I think in some aspects I kind of always think about things in my head while I'm being productive, and so it kind of puts a positive spin on things. And I like working. I like getting things done. I like, and there's nothing cooler than doing a big production show and going, I did that. Yeah. I was a part of that. You know, this is amazing. Yeah. And I like the accomplishment of that.
Yeah. Any profession where you can start with nothing and build something and then like look at it and say that is super cool. Like if you're building a fence, or if you're a drywaller, like if you start with 0 and then you accomplish it, even if it's just like mundane stuff that nobody else would think was cool, it's still like it fills you with a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
It's cool. Well, and it sounds like too, like with your dad, it wasn't as though he was just going to give you anything. It's like, hey, you want to get somewhere in life, you got to work for it and you got to achieve it.
Well, he wasn't in the position to give us anything.
Yeah.
Even right before he died, we got to get that car done so that we can have money to buy parts to start working on that car. And, he was just living from gig to gig. And there was 10 of us. It's like, well, I can't send you to college, because if I do for you, then I have to do it for all of them, and I can't afford that. And and he was paying a lot of money in child support.
Yeah.
And him and my mom didn't get along at all, especially after they got divorced. So they were in court all the time, and and it drained him, financially and emotionally, I think too. And so it wasn't really a situation where I can give you that head start, but I'm going to teach you how to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah. No, that's super valuable.
I hated him for it when I was younger. It's like, man, he's just such a slave driver, but it's like, then after he passed away, it's like, he gave me the most important thing of being able to do it by myself. And that's why I've always been a hustler, because it's like, well, nobody's going to give me anything.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have anything, it's going to be because I earned it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a super important thing to teach anybody, because I don't know, man. The older I get, the more I realize I'm the only one I can rely on for anything.
Right.
Like, I have friends, I have family who help me out and give me love and support and whatever. But like at the end of the day, you can only rely on yourself. Like, other people are gonna crash cars or
Right.
quit jobs or walk away or do whatever. Like, it's on you, and you can't just blame other people.
And sometimes people want to help and they're just not in the position. And, you know, you look at this whole thing that is so bizarre because we're all living paycheck to paycheck. And then all of a sudden there's no income for what, 40 million people right now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even if somebody would want to help, doesn't mean that they're in the position to be able to. You know, you got to kind of take care of yourself first before you can help somebody else. And that's where, you know, you got to kind of start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to evaluate what's going on because we're still in the middle of it.
All right.
All you can really try to do is compare it to something else, you know? And I keep telling my kids, I'm like, this is huge. I'm like, I know you're pissed that you can't go to school and you don't get to see your friends and stuff, but like, this is a big deal. This is like a paragraph in the history book.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, this is, besides like 9/11, Berlin Wall coming down, Vietnam, like, this is the biggest thing to happen since World War II.
Right.
It's affecting the entire world, and nobody knows when it's going to be over or what's going to happen.
Well, then that's where it's so bizarre, because it's like everybody wants to compare it to something else. Oh, well, this compared to the pandemic of, you know,
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we could kind of guess and, you know, hypothesize on it, but at the end of the day, you know, it's like, we don't know because we've never gone through this before. This is something completely new. And, you know, I never thought it would be a situation where after 20 years of being in the same industry that I'm going to be working a minimum wage job
Yeah.
at almost 50 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Unfortunately, our industry relies solely on people being able to communicate face to face with a bunch of other people at the same time.
Right.
And when you take that away, like, I don't know, I mean, with the exception of like the airlines, the restaurant business, like, I don't know of any other industry that has been affected as hardly as ours.
No.
Because, I mean, what are you going to do?
Our industry is based on social interaction.
Yeah.
But that's where it's also kind of cool to see it transform into seeing online auctions and, you know, seeing how people are trying to take what we have versus what we had and try to make it work. You know, it's like I see every day, you know, another artist online, you know, doing a live stream, and, you know, because they still want to perform. And it's like, just because you can't do it out in front of a bunch of people doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, seeing, you know, nonprofit auctions still happening. And it's like, that's huge, because especially the nonprofit sector, those auctions fund them for the year. So if it's like, if all of a sudden they can't have those auctions, they don't have any money to operate for the next year. And some of those are very important entities that are necessary to help people to survive, because we can't rely on the government.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's like, how many people are still waiting for unemployment 2 months later? You know, we keep talking about these stimulus checks, and it's like, cool. So $1,200 is supposed to get us through for the next 3 months.
Do you know how they calculated that?
Oh, I have no idea.
The federal minimum wage is, I think it's $7.50. So it's $7.50 times 40.
Right.
Times 4. So that's 1 month, and it's rounded up. So $11.60 is the amount you would make minimum wage at the federal level for 1 month. That's 1 month of minimum wage pay. $1,200.
Wow.
Dude, most people can't even pay their rent with that.
Not in the Northwest.
No.
I mean, what the average rent around here is what, 17?
Yeah, I mean, it varies.
I mean, so it's like, okay, you get a $1,200 check. That doesn't even cover your rent.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you go to Alabama and it's like, we're good for 3 months.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
And that's where it's we're not all in the same situation. You know, we're all in different situations. And depending on what part of the country you are is really vast as far as being able to afford living on minimum wage or, $1,200 stimulus.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the answers, but it seems like someone smarter than me should.
One would think.
That's why smart people existed to do the things we don't know how to do. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I don't know. As it keeps going on and on, it seems like, when it first started happening in March, it was like, oh, there's no way they're going to cancel the school year. And then they canceled the school year. Oh, there's no way they're going to shelter in place for months at a time. And then that happened. And pretty soon you're just hanging out in your living room. You're like, what the fuck is going on, man?
I was working at A and doing like one of the last gigs I did. And somebody said that they just, checked online and saw that the NBA canceled their season.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that was a big one.
Okay, I guess it is serious now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then to see everything shutting down, I mean, from small businesses to large corporations to, government agencies. I mean, I can't even get in to pay my water bill. I am so upset about that.
I'm sure they'll remember.
I'm sure they will. But it's interesting to see the country shut down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's scary that it can happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's scary what people will do. I mean, historically, the reason revolutions start is because people are desperate. And you have to cross over that threshold where it's not safer, but it's a better path to do something crazy like blow up a building or start some super violent protest. It's better to do that than to chill where you're at. And desperate people do stuff like that. And,
absolutely.
I mean, that's how this country has never seen something like that happen. I mean, short of probably the American Revolution, like it's never gotten so bad that people were willing to throw away their lives for some cause or to like overthrow the government or whatever.
And I think that that's why it's so important that they jumped on trying to get a stimulus out to people, because it's like you get people so desperate and then the shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you can keep people from completely getting desperate, then that's going to kind of even things out for a little bit. We don't have the breadlines like back in the Great Depression and stuff like that, and it's like, now could you imagine if they shut off the internet? That would cause some severe panic.
Oh, yeah.
Things would hit the fan at that point.
Yeah.
And so it's like they are taking care of certain measures to make sure it doesn't get to that point. It's getting close, but it's not getting to that extreme measure yet.
It keeps escalating. It's gotten worse and worse in the last few days. There's just no telling what is going to happen this close to the election and with Trump in office, because whether or not you support him or you don't, he outdoes himself every single day. Right. Anything that he says or puts out on Twitter or in a press conference or whatever, it's always more crazy than the last day. So dude, it's just this constant cycle of Trump, 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 Trump. Yeah, I mean, you go through like your news feed and every article has him in it somehow. And that's the goal.
Right.
Because
it's great advertising.
Oh, yeah. No, he knows what he's doing in terms of capturing your attention.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know, man. Regardless of any other event in the world, he's always the number one thing. And it's crazy.
And I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like, watching some kids fight in the schoolyard and going, I'm just kind of interested to see how this is going to pan out.
I can break it up, but you know what?
No, I'm going to let this go.
Tommy's got some good knuckles. Let's see what happens. Yeah, dude. It's so insane. I don't know. I like to look back at things that have happened and try to, like I was reading the other day about all the civil unrest in the 60s. Like JFK gets shot in November 63. His brother gets shot, I think, in like 65.
Right.
MLK gets shot somewhere in between 64, 65. You got 3 enormously prominent figures that got murdered. Then you've got the Vietnam War. You've got all these hippies. All the stuff that was happening in the music scene. Like that decade was so insane. And I don't know, because I could never go back and live it, right? I don't know if it was more crazy then than it is now. Or if now is just like so bonkers, people don't know what to shit.
But the thing is it seems like when you look back at that era, it was a necessary thing to happen to get to where we are now, because it's like you had the 50s where women were predominantly in the home, men went out to work, and then things kind of started changing where women started going out to work, but they weren't treated equally, and so you had to have that women's rights movement to make things more even for everybody. And the racism that happened then, it was really predominant and had to change. And it's like Martin Luther King was a major factor in changing things then. Now, did it fix it? Not at all. I mean, look at what's going on right now. I mean, there's still racism here. You cannot deny that. Is it as bad as it was back then? I don't think so. I think we're evolving. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not going to be, well, people just aren't racist anymore.
Yeah.
You're still going to have lingering things. And especially with, older generations and stuff, they weren't innately racist.
Yeah.
But compared to how people are now, they had more of those tendencies subconsciously.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But we have evolved as a species, and we're better, but it doesn't mean that we're there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still fixing, feminism and stuff, which I think it was a necessary thing back then. I think it's kind of gone to this radical, weird situation, kind of like unions. It's like it was really needed the way that it happened back then, where now it's just kind of, well, he's been in his job for 25 years, so you can't fire him, even though he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like there's got to find that balance of it. And I think that's what makes the world spin, is that conflict and that constantly changing. And hopefully we're getting better. Some things we're not, but it's like you look at the technology and it's like, man, there's so much cool stuff going on now that we didn't have in the 60s and 70s. There was a lot of issues that we had in the 60s that we don't have now. Some of them we still do, but they're better. It's just the interesting part about life to see how things change.
Yeah, this the human experience for sure.
Absolutely.
People, I think the majority of people genuinely don't care. They don't care what your race is. They don't care what your sexual orientation is. Most people just want to love somebody, have kids, make money, take care of them.
Exactly.
Go to Hawaii, whatever. Most people just want to do that. It's people who feel like they're going to make a change or get radicalized for some reason that have to just go way too far to the extreme on either side.
Right.
Most people are just chilling right here. They just want to live in peace, be cool with everybody. They don't hate anything. They don't hate anyone.
Or they hate everybody.
Well, those are the people on the extremes. Those are the people like that. And I think you're right. I think it's an issue of time. I mean, there's still neo-Nazis.
Right.
I mean, we found out at the latest 1945 that Nazism was not a good thing.
Right.
And there's still people almost 100 years later that are touting the benefits or the, the reasons to go with that. And so I don't know how many years it takes for things to be copacetic, or maybe they never get that way.
Well, look at religion. I mean, how many wars have been fought and, issues since the beginning of time over God?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it was interesting because, obviously working at Amazon, I got a lot of time to just think about things. And I was thinking about religion, and it's like, why is it that you think your God is better than my God? And why does it really matter? And it's like, but I think if we really took it down to its basic level of that God loves us all, God wants us to, do our own thing. I think that there's a lot that we're in control of our own lives. And then you get the super crazy Christians that it's like, well, God will provide for me. Well, he provides you the way to do things for yourself. That's what we would do as a parent. It's like, I'm not going to go buy my kid, master's degree, but I'll help pay for you to go to college to do that for yourself. And I think that if you break down religions, they all have very similar teachings in different ways. And if you was to take them all and I guess build some super religion or whatever, there's some very good stuff in there. The problem is the people that just get so fanatical about it of my God's better than your God. Mm-hmm. And, you don't believe in the right religion. And who cares? Learn to just be a good person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. If
you're a good person, then you act like a Christian. If you're being a complete ass and saying you're a Christian, well, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is that those texts were written thousands of years ago, sometimes by people that were not around,
right.
Recounted years later through a series of telephone conversations. Sometimes documents were lost. They would get retranslated. Like, what came down is not meant to be taken literally.
Right.
It's supposed to be a general idea of don't be an asshole, be kind, love, and then, really the only other aspect is what happens when you die. That's what changes amongst most of them, right? Is they have different ideas of what happens when you die. And so that is the thing I think that most people ascribe to, or what they get so fanatical about, is because most people that are religious, they think this is temporary and that is final.
Right.
And so what you do here can affect what happens in that final place. But I think it'd be better if more people just focused on this.
Oh, absolutely.
This is happening right now. Don't know what happens later.
It's kind of like the whole COVID thing right now. We don't know.
Yeah.
We could guess all day long, but we don't know. As far as the only thing we know for sure that happens when we die is that we become worm food. Mm-hmm. But we have right now. And, and I think too many people get caught up in the the idea of, well, when things get to a different part, then I will be happy. Then things will be better for me. This life sucks, but, it'd be better for me when I die. I'm, on God's side. Well, we don't know. All we have is right now. And unless you can figure out how to make right now where you want to be. And it's interesting because there's a book that I read, The Power of Now. Mm-hmm. And it's all about, you don't have the past. The past is already gone. You don't have the future. It's not here yet. You have right now in this moment. Mm-hmm. And how do you live in the moment and appreciate what you have? And it's like, nothing else matters. Work doesn't matter right now. The protests going on downtown doesn't matter right now. Mm-hmm. I'm hanging out with my friend, BSing, that's what we have. That's it. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And most people aren't able to recognize that for sure. It's pretty ridiculous to spend your entire life focused on something that you don't even know will happen.
Oh, exactly. And that's where I've always struggled with the whole religious thing is I'm a see it to believe it kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So that the whole idea of faith is really hard for me. It's like, now if I could see it, then it makes sense to me. Yeah. If I just believe that, there's a monster in the next room. If I could peek over there and see it, then I'd believe it. But to just, have blind faith and that's where I think that I had such a hard time growing up. I was raised Mormon and it's like, well, you need to have faith. Well, but I don't. So help me understand that. Well, you just need to have faith. Well, that's not answering the question. How do I get faith when I'm questioning things? And it's like, as an intellectual, I question things. Yeah. Why does this do this? Why, and especially with the production side of things, I got to understand how equipment works to be able to understand how to troubleshoot it. Mm-hmm. So I got to understand how this whole faith thing works to be able to put it in my own life. And if it's like, well, just don't question it, you just need to believe. Oh, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a little too simple. Well, and Mormonism is even tougher to believe, right? Based on the story of how it came to be and how it was only since 1850, 1860, something like that.
So it's a fairly new religion when you look at religions.
Yeah.
And that's where I had a hard time. Well, it's weird because I grew up hearing all the stories, my whole life. And, but then it's like I got to a point where it's like, some of this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So it's like, then I start questioning, well, you need to just not question it. But then it's like, to me, it was so boring and so monotonous. And my mom was mean. And it's like, there's 10 of us at church, and it's like, you shut up and you don't make any noise or you're going to get your ass beat when we get... That's not being a good Christian mom, and it's like, there was so much hypocrisy in there that I really started questioning things. And then I got away from it. And it's like, then I really kind of analyzed it. And it's like, it's more like a club, and it's like, if you're not a member of us, then, you're against us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't really buy into the you versus us mentality. And then I ended up finding this other church and phenomenal pastor, just a great guy. And we'd go out to lunch every once in a while. And I'm like, I struggle with faith. And he goes, I do too. He goes, and I'm a pastor. He goes, that's okay. You got to work through it the way that you need to. And it's like, that is being a true leader.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do I know if I'm, kind of part of you? Well, do you believe in God? Do you, we're not going to kick you out because you sin. Yeah. Everybody sins. Everybody has their flaws. And why not be accepting of people as they are? And because we all screw up, we all make mistakes, and we all do some good things too. And I'm definitely an enigma of an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go from just being a completely nice person to just complete asshole, and I'm everywhere in between. It just kind of depends on my day.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person. Doesn't mean that I'm a great person.
Yeah.
I'm human.
You're human, and you're working through it. And the coolest part is that you're able to admit it. The people that just refuse to say they make mistakes or that they screwed up, or
they're lying to themselves.
Yeah, man, that is the hardest quality in a person to deal with. The one who will not accept fault or blame or anything. It's like, dude, everyone has screwed up.
Right.
Just take it and put your tail between your legs and apologize, and let's move on. Like,
yep,
it happens.
Well, it's interesting because like my mom, I mean, she must be in her early 70s now. Every issue she has is somebody else's fault,
mm-hmm.
And it's like she can't live in an apartment complex without having an issue with one of her neighbors within 30 days.
Yeah.
And it's always their fault. And it's like, look at the pattern, who's the common denominator?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like kind of take responsibility for where you screwed up, and it's like, and I've had to do that too. It's like I haven't had my kid in my life for, quite a long time. And there's some issues that were out of my control, and there were some mistakes that I've made. And I have to be acceptant that I've made mistakes,
mm-hmm.
and that the way everything went down and how long it's been since I've seen her, I don't think is a fair situation, but I know that I also had a part to play in it too.
Yeah.
So I got to take responsibility for that and grow from it.
Yeah. And that's cool that you are and that you do. It's unfortunate that you've missed that time, because kids don't understand time.
No.
I didn't understand time until like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I still probably don't. In 20 years, I'll probably be like, what? I was an idiot, dude. What was going on? But when you're that young, you don't recognize how important everything is. Just like the interactions you have with people and the time you spend with them. Because you never know. I mean, when you showed up today, like what I said, I don't know what the last time I saw you. Yeah. It could have been, not counting a couple of those little shows we did, dude, it could have been like 4 years. I don't even know.
Yeah.
You never know. Like, maybe this is the last time I see you for another 5 years. I don't know. You can't just take that stuff for granted. And when you're 15 years old,
and that's where it's hard to see,
dude, you don't understand.
And that's where I think, because I went through the same thing. I didn't see my dad. My parents got divorced when I was 12, and I'd see my dad like a week or two every summer. And then my mom kicked me out halfway through my senior year, and I went to live with dad. I didn't even really know the guy.
Yeah.
Because we didn't spend that time together. Which I'm glad that we had that time, because that's when I really got to know him, and we started building a relationship then. I was 33 when he died.
Mm.
So it's like we didn't really have that much time together. And that's where I think part of my issue is it's like a really push for my daughter to be in my life, because it's like, you don't know when I'm going to go, you don't know how much time I have here, make the best of it. And it's like, well, I just want nothing to do with you now. Well, I got to understand where she's at in this process.
Yeah.
And she's got to do things at her own speed. Who knows? It may be a situation where, we were able to mend our relationship, in the next year. It could be another 10 years. I don't know. But she's got to do it at her process, and she's got to work through her issues the same that I got to work through mine. And I just have to be in the right mental spot to be emotionally available when she does.
Yeah.
And I understand where she's at because I've been through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard because it's like, see where the end was for me, and I don't want her to go through that.
Yeah.
Because me and my dad are exactly the same. You know, he was an asshole. You know, and we're very stubborn
Mm-hmm.
and very opinionated, and we didn't get along. And I had a lot of guilt for a lot of years because, you know, I fought with my dad the last few years that he was alive. And I wish that I could spend some time with him now.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could show my daughter how I feel on that situation so that she would want to fix our relationship. But she's got to want to.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's 19, you know, she's still figuring out what it's like to be an adult and, you know, her place in this world. And
yeah,
I got to get put on the back burner right now. And I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just want her to be happy and a well-rounded person. And that's it.
Yeah. And so do you feel that maybe she's a bit like you too, in that sense that she's pretty stubborn? And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so much of her that, which was kind of scary at some aspects too, is that I seen so much of myself in her.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like when I was younger, I had a lot of anger issues, and I saw that in her, you know, when she was really young, and it's like, scared the crap out of me because it's caused a lot of issues in my life. And so I've worked with her to curb those, you know, whether it's stuck or not, I don't know, but it's like, all you can ever do as a parent is just give your own experiences and tell your kids how things have affected you and things that you've learned along this experience. So hopefully they don't go through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have to, you know, it's like, I remember going out to lunch with my uncle and my dad, and my cousin was there. My uncle was like, this dumb kid. I tell him all the time what he needs to do, and he's just stupid. He's like, I got to make a mistake myself or I ain't going to learn.
Yeah.
And we have to go through our own experiences.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. And when you are, at least from my experience, when you are in that age group, you think you're awesome. You think you got it figured out. You think all those old people are just trying to give me advice. I don't care what they're saying.
They don't know nothing.
And then you get to that point and you're like, wow, man, they were right.
Oh, the older I get, the more I think I've realized I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I knew everything at 18, and I know nothing.
That is the craziest thing about growing older, is that, I mean, when I was younger, I always put like some sort of experience or achievement at different age levels. Like, right. Oh, by the time you're 30, you're married and you own a house or whatever. By the time you're 40, you got a sports car or whatever. Like 50, you're getting ready to retire. Like there's all these different milestones you're supposed to hit. And you think that you have it figured out. Like every person that's 26 or older has everything figured out, unless they're total screw up.
Right.
No one ever figures it out. No. Ever. I mean, you could be a 23-year-old running a company and things are going great, or you could be an 85-year-old who's getting a divorce and you've been married for 40 years. Like right. You have no idea what's going to happen ever. Nope. You're always just rolling with it and trying to do the right thing.
And that's where I think a lot of it comes down to self-awareness and, you know, seeing where you're at, not where, and I've never really been the kind of guy about what society wants. You know, I'm not going to get married by, you know, a certain age or, you know, have so many kids. And I never wanted to get married or have kids because I was so affected by my parents' divorce. Mm-hmm. It scared the crap out of me. Yeah. Well, then I ended up having this kid, and it's like, then the lawyers kind of scared me out of ever having any more. You know, I'm 48 years old. I've never been married. Mm-hmm. And because I'm still waiting for the right one.
Do you think you'll get married? Like, would you? If
I would.
Yeah.
If I found the right person,
Mhm.
you know, that it's like this is the one,
Yeah.
I totally would. But I'm not just gonna jump into something and, you know, and hope it works, because I've kind of been down that road, you know, with like my daughter's mom and stuff. It's like, you know, we were together for 7.5 years and it wasn't working by the first year, you know.
Do you think she wanted to get married and she was resentful to you because you didn't?
I don't know.
You don't know.
You know, it would be interesting to kind of be a fly on the wall to just find out exactly why she's so angry. Because we didn't have a perfect relationship by any means.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've also seen other relationships that were so much worse. And that's where I'm like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
You know, but everybody's got their breaking point.
Yeah.
And, you know, hers was whatever it was. And that's fine. You know, she's got married, you know, has another kid, and I'm happy for her. Why is she still mad at me?
Yeah.
You know, I haven't even seen her, you know, other than in a courtroom in 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's not, I know some bitter people in my life too, and I don't.
Well, it's like my mom.
It's not worth holding on to it.
My dad, they were divorced 20 years when he passed away, and that was 2004. She hates that man to this day with every ounce of her being. And it's like, that's over 35 years of hating somebody you're not even with. That's
so much hate.
It's like, wow. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, that's just mental illness as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's like at some point, get over it.
Yeah.
You know, suck it up. It was an experience, you know, and it's like, and I think that's where I try to look at things in my life is it's like, because there's been some bad stuff, but it was all an experience. Yeah. You know, it's made me the person that I am today. Which some could say that's good. Some could say that's not, you know, it just depends on which side of the fence you're on. You know, but it's like, I've learned a lot and I've changed a lot, and I look at the person that I was at 18 and I'm completely different, and I'm more at peace with myself. That's really what matters.
Yeah. So,
but I've never really been that person that cares about, well, you need to, well, no, I'm not gonna, you know, because I'm just like my dad. I'm a rebel. You're gonna tell me what to do, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. I remember at his shop, he got a letter from the city, and they're like, the concrete or the sidewalk is all broken up. You need to fix that. Fuck those guys. They ain't telling me what to do. He went on for forever. They ain't gonna tell me what to do. Screw those guys. So the city came out and fixed it. Sent him a bill for $1,500. It's like, so how's that rebellion working for you? But you know, that's how I've always been. You know, it's like, I'm not the kind that wants to be like the Joneses. I've kind of lived my life like I'm going through a midlife crisis.
Well, yeah, I think you figure that out as you go along. I don't know. There are things that happen. No matter how high you get, something can happen to bring you back down. You can get fired from your job. Your girlfriend can break up with you. Like, the peak is always really good, but the valley's coming at some point.
Absolutely.
I don't know anybody that just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And that's the other thing is, like, you don't know. I think there's a lot you build in your mind of what other people's lives are like. There's so many people I know where you think they have a perfect relationship with their spouse or whatever, and then you find out of nowhere that they hate each other and they're getting divorced. You're just like, what?
Well, you don't know what goes on.
No, you don't know
doors.
anything. No. And so that's part of being a human and trying to figure everything out, is understanding that you usually don't know what someone else is going through.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own struggles, you know, and some of them keep theirs on the surface, and some of people keep them deep down inside. And the ones that usually keep it deep down inside are the ones that the most self-destructive, that end up expressing them in destructive ways. Those are the ones that are committing suicide. Those are the ones that are, struggling with drug addictions and stuff like that, because they haven't dealt with their emotions and issues on the surface. So they just keep stuffing it down to, put on a facade.
Yeah.
And that never works out either. And that's where I think that it's like, I am who I am, and it took me a long time to get that way, because it's like, I wasn't really popular in school. So it's like, after I got out of high school, it's like, I want people to like me and I want to be accepted. And so it's like I'm pushing for that acceptance from everybody. And, then feeling down because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm to the point where it's like, I am who I am, and some people absolutely love me the way that I am. Some people hate me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with either way.
Yeah. You reach a point where you accept who you are. And I mean, you're doing your best, and you're trying to make positive influences on people's lives. And
Right.
if people take it the wrong way, then they're dealing with something else. That's
Right.
on them.
And some people just can't deal with any kind of conflict.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the biggest thing with my daughter's mom, is it's like, let's sit down and talk about this. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk to you. Well, of course, we're not going to get anything figured out if we don't talk. I mean, that's kind of basic communication.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
That's where you start.
Well, no, we got to talk to our lawyers and then have them talk to each. And it's like, that just doesn't work. Apparently. I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's an expensive way of talking.
And it's like, let's just be adults. I don't care if we got to go out back and just scream at each other and get it out. Let's just get it out and put our cards on the table. Here's where I'm at. Here's where you're at. And it doesn't mean that we have to be together. We have to even like each other, but let's kind of figure out the common goal. And that's our daughter's happiness. And it's really sad that that wasn't the main focus, on both sides. I've screwed up on that as well. And, let my anger get out of control. And
the insane thing is that through thousands and thousands of years in human evolution, from the time you're like 15 to 22, your hormones are insane, and all you want to do is get everybody pregnant. Like that's the only thing that you're thinking about,
Right.
And your brains are not even done developing yet. And so you're making these connections with someone else, and you're both retarded. You don't know what you're doing. So you're hanging out and getting married and making babies, doing all the shit. Dude, it's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how anybody who met like at that age and stayed together, I don't know how that happens. It's insane.
I think it really takes, and I don't think it really matters at what age. It takes two people that are willing to go, I'm in this to win it. And, we're going to fight, we're going to struggle, and I'm still going to stick this out, and we're going to make this work. But it takes both people involved at that level. And the problem is that it's usually one or the other.
Yeah.
Or neither. And then you get to the point where you're just fighting all the time, but it's exciting. And so then you get involved in that habit of fighting, and that's how you keep excitement in your world of, by just having constant conflict. And then you give up and you finally go on. Well, then you've got all this baggage that you take to the next one and the next one. And then it's like, so you have all these people that have been through retarded relationships that never dealt with their problems, learned how to communicate, learned how to deal with conflict, that they just take those issues to the next one and, leave little bit more baggage behind.
Yeah.
And so then by the time, you hit your 40s, everybody's screwed up.
You got 3 kids with 3 different ladies.
Oh yeah.
You still don't know what's going on.
And, you know, and some of them still are looking for that 20-year-old love.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, we all want that 20-year-old love. It was innocent. It was sweet. It was pure. But like you said, it's a recipe for disaster. So it's like you got to have something a little more intellectual that is like, we're going to fight. We're going to have issues. How do we deal with those problems? You know, where are we at money-wise? You know, I'm a penny pincher and you're just blowing money. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to work out real well, you know, unless you can figure out how to find that happy medium. And I think that most people go into a relationship with a preconceived notion, and this is what I expect from you. Now you need to figure it out. I'm not going to tell you. You just need to know what I need. Well, nobody's a mind reader. And that's why you see divorce rates and you see people breaking up all the time. Yeah. And then especially now, you've got people stuck in the house with people they have just been dealing with in passing to just get to work. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I don't have to deal with them. And then now they're stuck with this person that they really haven't gotten to know. And it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either they're really going to work on their relationships or they're done. And they're already seeing divorce rates skyrocket.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great time for that. Figuring out whether or not the one you're with is the one you should be with.
Right.
Yeah, because
but why would you want to stay with somebody that, and that's the question I've always had, is it's like, why would you want to be with somebody and spend your life with them if they're not causing happiness in your life?
I think some people just give up.
Well, and I think you settle and you
it's easier.
You get a habit. You know, and you go through so many bad relationships and it's like, well, at least they're not as bad as so-and-so. At least it's not as bad as it was in the past. You know, this is better than I've had. And you settle, but is that really happiness?
No.
And that's where I think people need to do a lot of soul searching and go, is this what I want? Mm-hmm. You know, kind of like the movie. Is this as good as it gets? I mean, there's got to be something better.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have what you want, go. You know, and it's weird because it's like I'm in the middle of 10 kids. There was always noise. There was always people around, and the hardest thing for me was to learn how to be by myself and deal with my own thoughts and be comfortable in that. It took a long time. And now it's just like, I like where I'm at. Mm-hmm. You know, I got my little house, you know, I got my cat that yells at me when I get home. You know, I set something on the counter. It's still there when I come back.
Yeah. Yeah. There's pros and cons. I mean, I've been living alone for, it's almost 2 years now. And there's good things. You know, like what you're saying, you just do what you want. You leave this thing over there, it's going to be there. Right. You move that thing over there, whatever. You make whatever you want for dinner every night. I'm
going to have beer for dinner.
I had that last night. That's all right. But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's the human interaction. And that's what you have to balance in your mind. What's better? Putting up with someone that drives you crazy and having a human there with you, or being alone. And I think that's why so many people are terrified to walk away from whatever they have, is they're like, well, this sucks, but it's better than being alone.
Which is untrue. I mean, when you really look at it, it's just that they haven't learned how to live with themselves. Mm-hmm. And you got to learn how to live with yourself before you can live with somebody else. Yeah. You got to learn how to be happy with yourself. And I think that's the other issue, is it's like, well, I'm not happy because I'm alone. I need somebody else to make me happy.
Yeah.
Well, So
That's
why
the
are you
biggest
putting
thing.
so much pressure onto somebody else
Yeah.
for your happiness? Figure it out yourself. Why am I not happy? Okay, well, let's start there. Why is it not okay to just be at peace with yourself? What is the issue causing that? And that's where you start. And, but I think it's a double-edged sword, because it's like I've been alone so long and I'm comfortable with it. And, then it's like if I had somebody come into my world now, it's like, okay, this is too much. Slow down. But, keep your suitcase by the door. This is just going too fast for me, because I've had my way for so long.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because it's like, I just don't understand how, people can just be, by themselves and, end up just stuck in their ways. Well, I do now. I'm stuck in my ways. I think it would be hard to be compatible with somebody coming in and changing my world. But that's where it comes down to that communication. That comes down to that compromise. And it's like, okay, well, this is hard for me. It's easy for you. Well, how do we make this work? Here's a non-negotiable thing. This I'm willing to kind of flex on. Where do you find that balance?
Yeah.
And that's where I still hold hope that there is a possibility for that. If not, I'm okay. I like working. I think I'm hard to deal with in a relationship, because I do work all the time, and I like working, and I'm always hustling. And even like I talked to my cousin the other day, and she goes, well, you're just as busy as you was before this all started. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not making any money now, but I'm always staying busy because I like being productive.
Yeah.
And that's me. I need to find somebody that can be understanding of that. And there's not a lot.
Yeah. Somebody that kind of has their own life going and doesn't need you.
Right.
But is there to hang out with you when you're around.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's, the older I get, I think there's different periods in your life, male and female, where you expect certain things and you get certain things. And as you get older, you kind of reevaluate them, and you're like, you know what? I can't expect this other person to do that. I'm not even going to do that. Right. So, and then, as you get older, it's like, this is what you're asking for. I want to go work and not hear a bunch of shit from you.
Right.
When I come home, I want to hang out with you, and everything can be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows? By the time I'm 60, I might be just like, shit, I need somebody around to make sure that, they can call the hospital when I fall.
What do you got on your speed dial? Is it 911? Yeah.
I mean, that's the only, I kind of joke about it, but it's like, well, what would happen if I died? The cat would have me half eaten by the time anybody found me.
The cat would be stoked. Just waiting for that to happen.
He's just standing on my chest. Meow! Meow! Feed me!
Oh, man. Yeah, that's great. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is when you owned the club.
That was an interesting adventure.
That was crazy, man. Did you actually purchase it, or did you?
So here's what happened is, so I was in a band, and we were scheduled to do a show at Mount Tabor Theater. And so the guy that was booking it, he goes, hey, just want to let you know the owner's talking about just closing the doors and file bankruptcy. And I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. And so then he kept calling me, and he's like, well, they're spending, I think, like $800 a month for the sound system. Is that a good price? I'm like, yeah. Well, they're paying the sound guy like $100 a night. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, basically we're working out a deal with the owner that she walks away and we just assume all the liability. And, but we're kind of looking for another partner, and because our credit sucks and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, let me look at the financials and stuff and see if it makes sense. And, you know, I've had my business for a long time and, you know, worked in clubs and, you know, kind of knew a lot of the risks. And honestly, I was just like, screw it. What the hell do we got to lose? And, you know, worst case scenario, I finally got enough debt to justify filing bankruptcy. So let's just try it. And
so you didn't put any money down up front.
I think you
just entered an agreement.
I think we end up putting like $1,000 down.
Damn.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. But then it's like we opened the doors for the first night and it's like we're reaching into our pockets. All right, what do we got to start a till? We had like $30, you know. So it's like we're making sales, running next door, getting change, and I mean, it was just grassroots. Yeah. But it's like, you know, him and his girlfriend or whatever, they were both booking and promotion and stuff. You know, I'm a sound guy. It's like, oh, we know so many people in the business. This should just be. And our first weekend was crap. We didn't make any money, and it's like, all right, this tells us one thing. We can't rest on what we've done in the past. We got to actually get to work.
Well, and that's pretty crazy too, because your location was great. It's like, what, 45th and Hawthorne?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the thing is you had that long hallway, so you couldn't see it from the street. And so it was you couldn't tell whether there's 2 people in there or 200 people.
Yeah.
So it's like we had to just kind of figure out how to actually run a club, you know, instead of just resting on what we did. Well, then not even a month into it, I went to work one morning and front door's padlocked shut. So I called Phil, the building owner, and I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, your rent check bounced. I'm like, really? Let me do a little research on this. So then I found out that my partners were cleaning the tills out every night, writing checks for the bills. No money made it to the bank. We're $30,000 overdrawn. I'm like, I don't even know how to react to this. And
they were asking you to write the checks from an account that you thought had money in it, and they were never depositing the money in the account.
Correct.
That was inevitable.
Yeah. So I basically ended up finding another investor to kind of come in and, you know, help us get back open. And so I went to them and I'm like, all right, here's the deal. You got what you got. Either you sign over your part of the company to me or I'll get a lawyer and have you indicted for embezzlement. Oh, here you go. So the next thing I know, you know, they signed over their part of the club to me. And I'm like, well, that was dumb on my end. Now I'm sole owner of this club.
For $1,000 down.
Yeah, but I mean, our minimum costs were between $20,000 to $25,000 a month, and it's like that's about what I was making a year. So it was hard to.
So you had to essentially make $1,000 a day to just keep the lights on,
pretty much.
And what were you making? I remember you telling me the biggest seller obviously was the booze, right?
Oh yeah.
So how much were you making in alcohol sales a day?
It depended on the day.
Yeah.
You know, so like a karaoke night, you know, we're making like $500, you know.
But you got to make $1,000 a day.
Right. So, but then like Saturday, you know, we do like a big hip hop night. We're doing $3,500. Okay. Well, then it all kind of balances. And just because I'm innately cheap, you know, it's like, you know, I'm the one going in the mornings and mopping the floors and, you know.
Yeah, you were doing like 18-hour days.
Oh, yeah. It was insane. And then it was so much going on. And, you know, and even like my bartenders, I'm like, I can't afford to pay you anything, but I'll try to book as good as shows as you can so that, you know, you can make tips. And it's like, I hated to ask them to do that, but it's like, you know, then they're walking out with $300-400 in tips. It's like, all right, cool. So it's like, it really was kind of, it was a group effort. I couldn't have done it by myself. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And so it took me about 6 months and then we were back in black again. Well, it was kind of back up. When I got back into the building, I basically called all the vendors and stuff because we owed them a shit ton of money. And I'm like, here's what happened. If you can kind of work with me, I'm going to do my best to get you paid. And if you don't, I understand. And, I got to close the doors. And all of them were like, yeah, do what you got to do. We'll work with you. And so, yeah, it took me about 6 months till we were kind of back in black again, started making some money. And then I had this guy come in and he goes, oh, I want to buy the bar from you. I'm like, put $50,000 in my pocket and, you assume the liability, I'm out. He goes, cool, I'll have my lawyer come talk to you Monday. I'm like, hell yeah. So then his lawyer came and talked to me. He goes, well, I think that's a little much, but, maybe if we stretch it out over 10 years, I don't care. I'm working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I'm tired. I want to go spend some time with my kid. I want to do something other than this. Owning a club sounds amazing, but it's a lot of work. And I learned enough from it that I don't want to do it again. And so he had his lawyer come talk to me. And so we end up working out a deal. And it's like, well, we're going to seal the deal on this date. Then about a week before, oh, we're going to push it out another month. What? Okay, so now I got a week to book out the next month.
Yeah, what the shit?
And so the second time he did that, I'm like, you don't talk to me. You're done wasting my time. Until you put down 30,000 cash in front of me, we're done talking. So then they went to the guys that originally owned it as Mount Tabor because there was a $150,000 loan for the equipment, which it wasn't worth that. But the problem was that it had been deferred from so many previous owners that it was never repaid on. So it just kept accruing interest. So it was a $150,000 loan.
And you were never paying it?
Oh, I was kind of paying on it, where I could.
Yeah.
And so they came to me and they're like, well, we're kind of losing faith that you're going to be able to get caught up, let alone stay current. So what if we made that loan disappear and we take the club back over? I'm like, screw you. I'll busted my ass to get this thing going again.
Yeah.
Wait. So I just walk out of here, no liability. Yeah. Write it up. I'm out. I went and cleaned the safe out. I had like $9,500 in the safe and I took off.
Wow.
And
I never heard that before. That's cool. Well, why did he keep bailing on the $50,000 buyout?
I don't know.
You think he couldn't get the money together or something?
Well, so here's the weird thing. So the guy that wanted to buy it, from what I understand, his family is all lawyers over in New York. He ended up coming into the thing with about $500,000. So I think the money was there. I think that he was just screwing around and, trying to figure out a way to weasel his way in.
Yeah, dude, $50,000 is not that much to somebody that has a lot of money.
Right. So here's the funny thing is that, so after I left, they're the ones that turned it into Alhambra. And, so they were basically booking like hippie bands and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he was there for, I think, 2.5 years. From what I understand, when he ended up getting kicked out, he ended up owing $750,000 between vendors and employees.
Wow.
And it's like, you can't owe somebody making $10 an hour $3,000.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
And a couple of years later, they found him dead in a hotel room in Singapore.
Really?
And it's like,
he got killed or he OD'd or something?
who knows? But it's like,
and he still owes those people that money?
yeah, what, obviously they're not going to get paid,
Yeah.
but it's like whether somebody caught up to him or karma caught up to him or whatever, you just can't do that. I mean, it's like, I was paying everybody cash at the end of the night when I had it, because it's like, I don't know if I'm going to get shut down tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
This is my risk. You're doing me a favor by working for me. You deserve to get paid. So I'm making sure you get paid at the end of the night, because if everything goes sideways, it's all on me, not
Mm-hmm.
you. I mean, if you do your job, you deserve to get paid. Yeah. And I've always tried to stick by that, even with the sound company.
Dude, when I would do shows for you 15 years ago or whatever, you would pay me before you got paid by them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And I've done that.
You would assume the risk.
It's my business.
Yeah.
It's
people
it's
aren't
not
like
on
that,
you.
Though. It's cool.
And there's been times where, I'm waiting on money and I'll go work another gig so that I can pay somebody.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's my business. I'm the one that should take the risk. You know, they already did the job. They deserve to get paid. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think shows somebody's character. And I think that's kind of a lost art, you know, of having a good character. And I struggle with that sometimes. You know, there's some times where it's like, man, I just don't have the money to pay this guy right now. I got to wait, you know, till I get this check in, you know, 40 days. Sorry, bro, you know, but it's like I try to do what I can to stay up on it, because at the end of the day, it's my business. It's my risk. You know, it's my vision. So they have no interest in my business. So, but they're helping me build it. So that's where it's a symbiotic relationship with a business and an employee or freelancer or whatever. And I think that a lot of people don't really get that. It's just like, well, you're just another number. Well, I think by doing little stuff like that, to me, it's like, if I got to go work, well, I'm still collecting that check in 60 days or whatever. So I'm still going to get paid for it. It's just, I've got to work to make sure they get paid now. And it shows class.
Yeah, I agree. Most people don't do it that way. So no, it's cool. Especially when you're not, at that point in time, you weren't making that much money, but you were still. None of us are.
I mean, you know, and that's where, you know, it's like, you hope that you build a business that, you know, you can just have this phenomenal bank account with, you know, savings that, you know, if anything goes sideways, that you're going to be okay. Well, okay, I've had the business for 16 years, and to make sure that things don't go sideways, I'm working a minimum wage job. Yeah. Well, obviously it didn't get to the point where I wanted it to. And, you know, I've probably made some bad investments, but I've also kind of lived of whatever I make, you know, I pay my bills, and then I invest more in the business. And, you know, on the other side, it's like, I could work a minimum wage job and be okay to sustain what I already have, versus what would happen if I had $2,500 lease payment on some gear. I'd be completely screwed right now. So I've grown it slower than I probably could have, but I've also played it safer too.
Yeah, and you're not going to go out of business. I mean, if you have all your stuff paid off, it's just collecting dust. It's not like you owe anybody money.
Well, it's just storage at this point.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like, you know, I was reading a thing like back in March on some AV forum, and this guy was like, yeah, we're good for now, but we got a $50,000 gear payment on the first and no income.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's scary.
Yeah, dude. That's when you have to sell stuff or fire people or return your yacht or fucking whatever.
If you have a yacht, you know, if it's just all the gear.
How many yachts do you got? 3 or 4?
Maybe Matchbox.
No, dude, I remember back in the day, I would text you right after you bought the club, and I'd be like, hey, Rich, what's going on? Who's playing tonight? And I never cared who was playing. We just wanted to come to your club and hang out.
Right.
And I'd be like, do they got a cover? And you'd be like, yeah. And I go, well, can you get us in? Because you own the club.
Right.
And you're like, I'll get you in, but you guys better buy a lot of booze. So
that's where I was making my money.
I'd bring all my friends, and I'd be like, yeah, we don't have to pay the cover. I know the guy. So we'd get right in and just go out to the bar. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Well, that's where it's so funny that some clubs are such sticklers on cover charges, because it's like, if you just let more people in and you're making it at the bar, well, then it makes sense. Because I remember, like, when I booked Stephen Piercy from Rat, it was a $2,500 guarantee, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of money. So I ended up just saving money from all these gigs, and I had it in my safe. So as soon as he walked in, here's your money. He grabbed it, put it in his boot. Thank you, man. I love the way you do business. Let's have a good show. And it was on a Thursday. That Monday I called and I'm like, hey, how many pre-sales do we have? 9. Okay, I pre-sold 9 tickets for a show this Thursday. I'm like, all right, print me out 300 tickets. So I went around to like all these businesses. Hey, just want to invite you to come out to the show. And by the time it was said and done, I think we made 900 at the door. And I did 3,500 in liquor sales. And it's like, that's a wash. It's a wash.
Well, and it made it look good to him because there were 300 people in the crowd as opposed to 9.
Right. Yeah. And to me, it's like, it was a wash financially, but it was awesome because Rat was the first band that I ever saw live.
Yeah.
And to kind of see the full thing go full circle to where I'm booking him and he's hanging out in my club. And we were hanging out till like 7 a.m, just drinking, talking.
I was going to ask you that. You got to hang out with him?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
And it's like, all right, the experience was worth it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, dude, that's what it's about. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you make or how many vacation homes in Mexico you got. Like, when you die, I mean, like, who's the Microsoft dude? I'm drawing a blank on his name. He just died recently. Paul Allen.
Oh, yeah.
He owned the Blazers. He owned Cuba. Like, he owned all kinds of shit, man. Whatever. Right. He died at 57, 58 or something. Like, you can make as much money possible.
Can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you. I mean, you can spend it here, but who cares if you're not generating important experiences and hanging out with...
That's all life is experiences.
Hanging out with the dude that you saw the first time you went to a concert is pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I think I love this business, is because I've worked with so many famous people that I never would have even seen otherwise. And, it's been a cool experience. It's been a cool ride. I've worked some cool shows. I've worked some horrible shows too, but it's that balance in life. And, but I've got to experience things that I never would have sitting in some cubicle at a desk for, 20 years. Yeah. And I'm just not that guy. I do not deal well with authority anyways. And I don't do well in the corporate environment. I'm just not that guy.
I don't deal well with a consistent schedule. As annoying as it is sometimes to not know what you're going to work or whether or not you're working a weekend or whatever, I prefer that over Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 in a cubicle or something.
Right.
That just... I don't know. It just seems like the weeks would go by and years of your life would disappear and you'd be like, what did I do? I went to the exact same spot every single day, typed in the same stuff on the computer. Like, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem...
Does not sound appealing.
You're not generating any memories.
Well, and I think that I struggled with the whole weekend thing for a long time because when I was working for my dad, I was working Monday through Friday. And so I had weekends off, and then it's like I'm in production and, mostly working weekends. And so it's like then the weekends really didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, I got a Saturday off. The hell am I supposed to do?
What do people do on Saturday?
What? Go to a bar by themselves or do what? Just stand there and watch the band? I want to do sound.
when you and I were working at the museum, and we were doing auctions every Friday and Saturday for years, it made me really disappointed with life because I was mad at people that were coming to the event to hang out and have a good time. And I hated parties.
Yeah. Because
we were getting paid to be there doing something that we didn't really want to do. And dude, I got so bitter.
But the thing is that somebody has to be on that side of it.
Somebody does.
And it's like...
But you want to be hanging out, having a good time.
Well, of course. But then at the same time, it's like, we're doing a show with Martin Short. We're getting paid to listen to Martin Short.
He He sat us down around that table, and there were probably 10 of us, and he wrote down everybody's name. What's your name? What's your name? He wrote down everybody's name. He gets to you, Rick. Isn't that what he called you?
I think so.
He nailed everybody else's name except yours, and he called you Rick the rest of the time.
I'm like, whatever. There's a guy at Amazon. So they make us wear masks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we were working together, and he's like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, I'm Rich. And he's like, oh, cool. Nice to meet you, Chris. He's called me Chris for like a month. And I'm like, and somebody was like, aren't you going to correct him? I'm like, no, I'm just going to let this play out.
Well, dude, it's the same. I tell people all the time, because it happens all the time, about how people mess up my name. And they call me Corey, Courtney, Colby. And I tell everybody, I'm like, Rich doesn't even call me Cody anymore. He just calls me Colby every single time. Dude.
I don't know. You know what? It's so interesting because it's like, there's some aspects of this business that just really sucked. But it's like, we're not working in cubicles, and we've got to work some pretty cool shows and some cool events. And, you know, we've lived a different life from the normal people, and it's been kind of awesome. Yeah. You know, and I feel glad that I've been able to do it. Even if I completely lost my hearing and could never work in production again, I'm happy for the ride that I've had, and, you know, the cool experiences, and even the bad ones, you know, I've learned some shit from. So,
yeah. I mean, nothing can prepare you for a failure of a system or somebody freaking out. Dude, when I started, just everything was new, and, you know, seeing an anchor from KGW or whatever was like, whoa.
Right.
And now just like, why did I think that was cool?
Right.
Like, who gives a shit? But yeah, what we do is so unique. And I'm not saying that to like brag about it or something, but like, whenever I try to explain what I do to people.
So you're a DJ.
It's so hard. You know what I tell them? I say, have you ever been to a concert? And they're like, yeah, duh. And I'm like, I do the stuff that you're watching.
So you're a roadie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's the only way I can explain it. I'm
exactly.
Like, I do the LED wall and the sound and the lighting, and I do all that stuff, but for corporate people.
Right.
And they're just like, no one knows what that means.
It doesn't compute.
No.
And that's where it's such a hard thing, because it's like, we're trying to be professionals and we're trying to be the best at our game. And then it's like, well, I got a DJ buddy that can do that too.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, I'll send out a quote for like $1,500 for full lights and sound and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and it's like, and I'm hooking you up. It's like, well, but my DJ buddy, I'll do it for $200.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, as a business, I've got, you know, when I first started, it's just like, well, we need you to bring in a sound system. We got 5 metal bands, and, you know, it pays $100. My electric bill's due. Sure. I have to, you know, and now it's like, no. The most important word in business is no, is I don't have to. And it's like, well, I want you to come do sound for my band. I personally don't like you. No. And there's some power in that. Yeah. And I'm so happy I've gotten to that point. And it's kind of made my happiness better, because I'm not doing these horrible gigs and putting in all these hours to make less than a minimum wage. Yeah. And it's like, I look back to when I first started my business, and it's like, you know, I've probably got $10,000 worth of gear to make less than a minimum wage. Why didn't I just go to Taco Bell? I could have at least made minimum wage. Yeah. But it was for the experience and to build my resume and to get to that next level. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just every step along the way has been closer to the goal that I want to get. Where that ends up, I don't know. You know, I could be peaking right now. You know, I could end up doing arenas, a few years. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you did the stint at the museum, and then you branched out and just started doing Soundguy full time. And dude, you were killing it up in Seattle up until this happened, right? And so,
well, so what I did was there's an auction company, Stokes Auction Group, and so I kind of teamed up with them, and they do they do a lot of their own production, but then they also kind of it got to be kind of a weird situation. So sometimes I'd just go work for them. Sometimes I would just kind of sublet through them. So I would take my own gear and do my own thing. But they kind of funneled work through me. And so between doing that and doing summer concerts and, whatever corporate gig I could pick up, I was able to make it work. And it was really scary for me because I've had Soundguy Productions for 16 years, but I've always played it safe. And so it's like, I've got a job at the convention center, or I've got the bar, or I've got the art museum. And it's like, that's my main source of income. Soundguy Productions was kind of a hobby. But it's like, I came to the realization that it's like, it's never going to be successful if I don't take that jump. Mm-hmm. And I got to get out of my comfort zone. And that was the hard part. Just going, screw it. I'm doing this full time. And it's been almost 4 years that I've been doing it full time. And it's been cool. And, to see where it's growing. And so like this, and that's the disappointing part, is this summer, I already had, gigs booked out through October. Mm-hmm. And last year I think a couple times I had 5 shows a day. And it's
for a one-man band, that's a lot, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
But, and that's where it comes down to, I got to have good people on my team.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's always been the hardest part, is finding good labor, because there's people that will work hard. There's people that are talented. And there's people that will, kind of do what's necessary. To find all three in one is kind of hard.
Yeah.
And usually if they're working for somebody making really good money.
Yeah.
And so to be kind of a small business and going, hey, look, I can probably pay you like $20 an hour, but, I need you to take care of my client. I need you to kind of, do a good job, and I need you to, be positive about it. It's kind of hard. And I've got a couple guys that, are really good right now, and I'm able to just go send them out. But a lot of it is trust, and that was the hardest thing. You were the first one to do a show for Soundguy Productions that I wasn't there, and it freaked me out.
Which one was this?
That was the one at Esther Short Park.
When my nose wouldn't stop running because the allergies.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that day was so awful.
And so I had to go out to the coast, and then it turns out I had no cell service out there, and
that was for the Tibetans.
Yeah. And I was freaked out the whole time. I had so much anxiety.
That's awesome.
Because it's like, this is my business, it's my reputation, and then I finally get back in service, and it's like, first phone call. Hey, Cody, how'd it go? Oh, it's fine. What? Give me more than that. Come on, man.
Dude, at that show, I had a towel that I was just blowing my nose in like every 20 seconds. My allergies were so bad that day. It was brutal. But they were cool.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'd never heard you say that before.
Yeah.
That was the first one, huh?
That was the first one that I wasn't there. And, basically I just gave 100% trust.
Yeah.
And,
so you're saying I'm not a total retard?
No.
Right.
It was, but I think that if it would have went completely to shit, it would have changed everything. Because it did work out fine and everything went well. It's like, okay, well, I can kind of put trust into other people, and I don't have to be there for every show, and I can't. When I start scaling it out to where I've got 5 shows in one day, I can't do them all by myself. They're just physically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to rely on other people. Sometimes they do a good job. Sometimes they don't,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, as a business owner, it's a lot of damage control. Well, your guy, okay, well, let me put you at ease, okay, what happened? How do we fix this thing or whatever? And,
there's a certain level, and I don't know this from personal experience. I just know it from evaluating other people, but like there's a spot where you have limited employees and you trust everybody and everything's tight. And then you can hit a middle ground where things are still pretty good, but there's a few bad apples. And then once you cross over that and you're into like Microsoft or Amazon or whatever, like then it's just, you can't control anything anymore.
No.
So there's a good middle ground before you become more successful and you make more money, but dude, then it's just corporation. You know?
It's out of your control. And then that's where middle management gets involved.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think a lot of the problems with like the Amazons and the Microsofts and the huge corporations is, they come up with all these retarded policies, just as control, and it's like, I don't think Jeff Bezos gives a shit whether or not I sit on a tote while I'm waiting for something to come down a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. He probably doesn't care. That was something that was probably brought up by some, middle management kid that, got beat up a lot in school. And it's like, I'm going to make people pay. And, it's like, this is how I'm going to get control of my life is, you can't sit on a tote.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's where you start getting the lower end of people, because it's like they're just going to come in and do a job. They have no emotional investment in that whatsoever. They don't care. Where it's like, I'm at a small business. I got a few people working for me, and it's like they want to do the best job that they can because they want to feel part of this company because they are part of it. It's like I couldn't do it without them, and they need to know that they're as important to this business as I am.
Yeah.
And so they have that emotional investment.
Yeah, dude, you're going to get better performance out of people when they are emotionally invested, because if everybody feels like they can contribute and somehow a portion of this thing is theirs, they're going to do such a better job.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we were talking about it earlier when you first got here. Every job I had up until I was like 23, I would quit in a heartbeat. I didn't care. I was making $9 an hour. I was just like a cog in the wheel. I didn't give a shit.
See, and that's where I think that it was different for me, because it's like every job that I went into, I went in 100%. It's like when I was working at Taco Bell, I made the best burritos you've ever seen.
Well, no, I will agree with you. When I worked at Quiznos, dude, I made some dank sandwiches for sure.
So it's like I put a lot of pride into my work, no matter what it was.
I'm saying like your investment to the corporation.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, did I think that I was going to be, the best burrito roller in the county? No.
Dude, you ever go to Chipotle and some of those people know what's up and they can roll it right, and then some of the other ones, there's just like stuff flying out all over the place, and you're like, man,
why don't you just start over again?
And then they get a second tortilla, and
it's like, it's not the same.
I like it when they put two together, 2 tortillas, double whammy.
So up in Longview, there's this place, Junior's Tacos. They have the best burritos ever.
Yeah.
And it's just a small, family business. And, but yeah, they make these street tacos like $2 a piece.
Nice.
Just amazing.
Is it a truck or a brick and mortar?
So I think that it's like an old Dairy Queen that basically they turned it into this taco joint, and they have the most amazing tacos. When I moved up there, that was like one of the first places I found. And so I was going in there like all the time. And then, like auction season hit and, so I'm gone all the time working and stuff. And I come back like a couple months later and like, where have you been? I'm like,
you're our number one customer.
I feel at home now.
Somebody missed me. And they call you Rick. Rick, we missed you so much. God damn it, that's not my name. What was it like? What was it like working at Taco Bell? You were a manager, weren't you?
Yeah, at one point. I worked at 4 of them.
4 of them?
Yeah.
On purpose, or they made you switch?
Well, I worked at different times. So like...
it wasn't one continuous stretch of Taco Bell employment?
No, I don't... Well, I don't think so. Because I think that from like 91, after I got out of high school, I ended up working at one on like 24th and Division or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think I was there for about a year. And then me and my girlfriend broke up. I ended up moving to Corvallis with my sister, ended up working at the Taco Bell there. And then I think I ended up coming back up to Portland, ended up working some other jobs. And then before I went to college, I remember I was working at the one on like 52nd and Powell, and that's where I met my daughter's mom. And so I was working there as the night manager, and then I was working at a sawmill during the day. And I didn't think I can't even remember how many years I've worked there. I mean, it had to have been like 5-6 years between all the different ones. And I'm like, this is not what I wanted to be my career move at all.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good driver to get people to do something else, right? Because, dude, I worked at Quiznos. I worked at Radio Shack for same thing you're talking about with Taco Bell. I worked there for 3 years in like 6 different stores. It's like, it's one of those jobs where you're just like, this is not what I'm going to do with my life. I got to figure something out.
Well, and I think that's where I have a big issue with the, making a minimum wage $15 an hour. And it's like, because then it makes you complacent. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the whole purpose of jobs like that is to kind of get you by, to kind of push you out of the nest. Mm-hmm. It's like, this sucks. I don't want to be doing this when I'm 50. I got to go find a career. Yeah. This has been good while I've been in high school or college, or just to kind of get started in the work world. But I want to do better with my life. Yeah. And some of us are slower than others. Obviously, I spent so much time at Taco Bell.
You just really like the food. Did you eat it a lot, or were you just disgusted with it?
Both.
Yeah. Because I remember you telling me that the beans aren't beans, right? Or no, it was the beef isn't beef. It's like powder.
No, the beans, it comes out like this dried kibble, kind of like dog food or whatever. And then you add water, let it sit there for like a half hour, and then stir it up.
Stir it up a couple times.
Oh man, that stuff is disgusting.
Yeah.
But
it's got.
We all know that is the best thing when you're drunk.
Oh, yeah. No, talk about drive-through between like 11 and 3 a.m. He's killing it, man.
That's when I was working it, because I was managing the night shift, and so I was working the drive-through, and that's what I really got depressed with my life, because it's just like, man, these people are coming back from these parties and from the bar, and it's like, hey man, how you doing? What do you want? This sucks. I'm stuck in the Taco Bell and you're coming from a party.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Those early jobs, man, where you gotta do something.
But it's that stuff that builds character, and I mean, I remember I must have been 10, and during the summer we'd go pick berries. Mm-hmm. And, I remember it was like, and this was early 80s, it was like $1.25 a flat. Yeah. And that first day I was so sick, because it's like,
One for me, one for you. One for me.
I mean, I was so sick because I ate so many strawberries that day.
I believe it.
But, you know, and then it's like, man, it takes a lot of strawberries to fill that flat.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I was making like $1.25 a flat.
Yeah.
And I mean, my first job, I was 13. And so my mom got us this gig, basically pulling blackberry bushes behind the swimming pool in exchange for free swimming tickets. Mm-hmm. You know, we were broke white trash. You know, that's how we did things. And I remember I got this big vine and I'm pulling on it, and finally let loose, and I fell off the wall and I broke my wrist.
Oh, shit.
And so I was in a cast for a long time, you know, mostly because I was stupid. And, you know, I got about mostly healed, and then I'm kind of fucking around on the skateboard. Bam! Oh, rebroke it.
But that got me.
And so the swimming pool offered me a job as a cashier. So that was my first job. I was 13 years old.
Wow. Dude, I didn't realize you could... Isn't there some sort of employment legalization?
I don't think it was really
something
legal back then. I think they were just kind of trying to keep me from suing them for breaking my wrist.
They're like, somebody hire him, please.
Which it's like, come on, Mom. You know, if you'd have done the right thing, I could have went to college.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, dude, my first job was in a cherry orchard when I was 14. And same deal. You could eat as many as you wanted, but I hated cherries. So I never ate them. And
well, I think they let you because you figure it out the first time.
You do. Yeah. Most of the people there would eat a ton the first few days, and then they were done. And I was just like, these are gross, man. I don't want them at all. But I had bad allergies. So that's what I remember the most is just sneezing and just runny nose the whole time, dude. They're so bad.
It was, you know, back in those days, it was, well, so we lived on a farm too. And so we had to go milk the cows and, you know, feed the chickens and collect the eggs. And
this was in Portland?
It was out in Banks.
In Banks,
yeah. Okay. So my first memory, it was really weird because it's like my first memory was I remember waking up and going downstairs and went into the kitchen and had a bowl of cereal, and I see people moving around all over the place. And it was the day that we were moving from Portland to Banks, out to the farm.
How old were you?
6.
And
so we were out at the farm from the time I was 6 until 12. And then we kind of moved around a little bit and then ended up settling in Cottage Grove by the time I was, well, in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that farm.
Was it cool? Did you like it?
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool, you know, kind of being around the animals and stuff, but, and there, you know, it was 10 acres, you know, so there was a lot of room to kind of go screw around at. And, I remember way up the hill, there was this tree and it had this branch that kind of came down like this. And so I just go up there and sit on it like a swing and stuff.
Where's Rich?
You know, but it's like there was 8 of us kids still living at home then, and
dude,
it was crazy.
What was that like, man? 7 siblings? From what age to what age?
So my dad had 2 kids from his first marriage. Uh-huh. My mom had 3, and then they had 5, and I'm the oldest of the 5. So, you know, when my dad got divorced, I think the kids ended up going with their mom. And so, you know, we'd see him every once in a while. But dad ended up adopting mom's older 3. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was always at least us 8. And I think that's where I have a hard time with people that have a lot of kids, because to me, it's very selfish, because it's like, I never had that one-on-one time with mom or dad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like basically my older sisters were kind of more involved with raising us kids than mom was. Mm-hmm. Because, well, you know, dad was always at work. You know, he had all these mouths to feed.
Yeah, right.
You know, mom she was going through her own stuff, and I think she's got a lot of mental issues. You know, she ended up doing a couple tours of, you know, asylums back in the day. And
while you guys were all there?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, so she was kind of going through her own stuff and wasn't really in the position to raise all these kids.
Yeah. Dude, that's a lot for anybody.
I could never even imagine.
10 kids.
I mean, I had one, and I'm like, about the time she's 6 or 7, I'm like, all right, I think I got this figured out enough. I could probably have a second. That's just a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I mean, and this was back in the 80s, you know, everything was cheap, but it was like $50 for us to go to McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everything was a huge ordeal because you had to pack all these kids into the station wagon and, you know, and going to church, you know, it was not an act of God.
You guys all fit in one car?
Yeah. I mean, we always had vans, you know, these big cargo vans or, you know, the long station wagons.
Yeah.
And,
holy shit, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I cannot imagine the logistics of that. I mean, I love kids. I would have 10 kids, but I get what you're saying. Like, I want to spend individual time with each of them and make them feel like I think
that's where I came with my kid is it's like, I don't want to have another kid because everything that I'm able to give to her financially, emotionally, you know, whatever is going to be split in half with another kid.
Sure.
And is that really fair to her? Don't know. I mean, that's a personal question for each person. But it's like, I want to dedicate as much as I could to raising this one child correctly. Obviously it didn't work out the way I planned it.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want it to be a situation where it's, you know, it's like my brother Alan. I think he's got 4 or 5 kids. And I remember by about the 3rd kid, he told Dad that, you know, he's having another kid. He's like, yeah, it's just getting easier to tell him that. And it's like, you know, I guess it just affected me so much being just kind of lost in the shuffle. And it's like, you know, Mom would start bitching at the kids and she'd start down the list until she got to your name. You know, it's like, Rich, go here. You know, and it's like, you don't even remember who the hell I am. What did I do? Yeah. Doesn't matter. Just get out of here. You know, and it's like, it's so chaotic because there's just so much going on and there's so much drama and, you know, and then it's like Mom and Dad weren't getting along and, you know, Dad's tired because he's just working all the time and, you know, trying to build a business on top of, you know, feeding, you know, all these kids and, you know, and then dealing with Mom's drama and I mean, how we made it out of there alive, I have no idea. But I think that that's also been my drive is because I remember being broke. I remember being a young kid and it's like, all right, well, let's go school shopping and we're going to Goodwill. And it's like, this stuff smells funny. I don't know.
We'll wash it.
Why? I want to go to, you know, Kmart like all the cool kids. And, you know, and it's like, I was like one of the shortest kids in my class, had big glasses. And it's like, and you're putting me in stupid clothes. Yeah. I got nothing to work with here.
Help me out. Give me some fucking Jordans or something.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, dude. You know, I think that builds character. I think that when you understand what it's like to be in that position, you want to do something different. Dude, my dad grew up super poor, and you know he'd get new shoes once every 2 or 3 years or something. Like they're fucking so broke, and he worked really, really hard for his entire life. And did really well. And so there's an argument for putting someone in a position like that where they have to try so much harder than everyone else.
Right. You know, and it's interesting because it's like you know, you look at the race issues, and it's like, you know, I wasn't black, but I had my own struggles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm broke white trash.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, this sucks. I want to do something different because I don't ever want to live like that again. I still remember what it's like to have fucking spaghetti for every goddamn meal for 2 weeks. Yeah. It sucks. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to live like that again. And I don't want to put my kid through that, or, you know, anybody I care about through that lifestyle. I want better for myself. And that's always been my drive. And I'm glad that I've went through it, because it's built the character of the person that I am today. Doesn't mean that, you know, my struggle is any better or any less than anybody else. It was mine, yeah. You know, and it's like, I think everybody goes through their own struggles, and some people are like, oh, you know, it was all right. So whatever, we just continue the family tradition, and, you know, you just keep doing the same thing and doing the same thing, mm-hmm. you know, generation after generation. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just people's opinions and way they live their lives. But it's like, I still remember to this day how hard we struggled, and I don't ever want to struggle like that again. If I have to work 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs to make sure I don't have to walk into a Goodwill ever again in my life, mm-hmm. I'm going to do it. You know, and then when I was in my early 20s, you know, of course I wanted to be a rock star. Well, I got to go to LA. So I ended up going to Hollywood and end up living on the streets of Hollywood for a couple months.
I never heard you tell me that.
Oh, yeah. So there, you know, this pre-internet, you know, back in the nickel ads, you know, come down to Hollywood, live the rock and roll lifestyle, blah, 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 you know. Well, you get down there and it turns out it's selling cleaner door to door. And I'm like, no, ain't happening. And so I ended up going down there with like, I mean, I was 20. I think I had $100. You know, I ended up getting this little storage unit or something because I went down there with my guitar and, you know, a duffel bag of clothes. And they're like, well, you know, if you're not going to work for us, then, you know, we'll just drop you off at the bus station. I'm like, I'm in Hollywood. Give this a go. And so, yeah, I ended up just kind of sleeping on the streets. And, you know,
you physically slept outside on the street in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Dude, I hope you're not embarrassed of that, because that's cool.
It was horrible.
It may have been horrible, but you know what? You actually tried and did it. You know how many people want to do it and are too scared to do it? That's so cool.
It's just, you know, an experience. Yeah. You know, it's part of, I was trying to go for, you know, it's like, I wanted to be a big rock star, you know, and LA is where it was happening, you know, especially in Hollywood, you know, and it's like to go down there and, you know, it's like I'm sleeping on Hollywood and Vine, mm-hmm. you know, all the cool places that Motley Crue's talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, it's a shithole down there.
Yeah. Skid Row.
Yeah. But, you know, it's like, again, I still remember how cold it was at night. And, you know,
what
it's like,
month was it?
It was probably late summer, early fall, somewhere around there.
It was still warm outside, but
it was hot as hell during the day. Huh. And then it was freezing cold at night. Huh. And I remember, you know, like sleeping beside this dumpster and stuff, or, you know, it's like I'd just stay up and walk all night, and then I'd go into the storage unit and just kind of crash there during the day. And, you know, it's like I was trying to find a job, and, you know, but
yeah,
I didn't really have any skills, you know. It's like I was, you know, a young kid just kind of starting out, and you know, I didn't know where to start, mm-hmm. and you know, so you know, and then on top of it, I was doing a bunch of drugs and stuff, and so I ended up hanging out with these guys, and you know, we're doing a bunch of meth and stuff, and I remember this guy, he just got off work at McDonald's, and he came walking by and handed us, you know, a bag full of the leftovers, and you know, that was our dinner for the night. Mm-hmm. And I still remember how much that sucked.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm sitting there with this gang, you know, group of guys, and we're just hanging out and bullshit. And this guy ends up pulling out this knife, stuck it to my throat. And he's like, you need to get the fuck out of here. He goes, you don't belong here.
Whoa.
And I'm like, Dad, can you send me a bus ticket?
I'm done with LA.
And, it's like, it's one of those experiences that changed my life, and it's like, I'm glad I went through it, because it's like, I really know, I thought that I struggled being in the middle of 10 kids and we didn't have any money. And it's a different struggle to be sleeping on the streets and not knowing where your next meal is coming from.
And almost getting your throat slashed.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, dude.
It's made me kind of appreciate things a little bit more. And on some aspects, it's like, it's also kind of made me a little callous too, because it's like, I've gone from, being broke and being homeless to, I've worked my ass off to build a business and to build a career and stuff. And it's like, I'm not just hanging out panhandling for 2 years hoping things are just going to change for me, And so it's like, I have a hard time with that empathy side of things, because it's like, well, do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I get it.
You can't just sit there and just hope things are going to change. You gotta make things change. And I don't know, I could be completely wrong and off base, or I don't know, but that's just kind of how I feel, especially going through it, and it's like, I've been through being broke. I've been through being homeless. I've struggled with drug addiction, and I was bad, but it's been 25 years since I've, touched drugs. And, so it's like the whole always an addict or, always an alcoholic thing. I don't buy it, because it's like, I could give a rat's ass about ever touching meth again.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I've also had to kind of build my life to, I've got too much to lose if I end up going back to that life. And that was an experience. And I'm glad I went through it for the experience, to know that I never want to live that life again.
Yeah.
It's been a weird ride.
Dude, no, that's really cool. I didn't know that. You've never shared that before. That's the point of being a human, is, in my opinion, you try stuff that you're scared of.
Right.
And either it works out or it doesn't, and you do something different.
Well, I read about successful entrepreneurs all the time, and most of them have failed and failed and
That's all they do.
failed before
yeah.
they've become successful. And God, I hope those failures are done.
Take any more. No, dude, that's what it is. You have to be willing to fail, actually do it and fail, and go, you know what? Something wasn't right. I got to try it again. Because I don't think anybody gets it right the first time.
Right. Well, it's like, so we started doing this virtual concert series.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're live streaming concerts. And it was basically started by me and my friend Bobby. And, he's a video guy. So it's like, he's got a bunch of cameras. I got a bunch of sound equipment. Between the two of us, we got a bunch of lights. And it's like, there's no concerts happening right now. Let's make something happen. And it sounds great in theory, but it's like, we're going through struggles trying to build this thing.
Yeah.
And learning how to perfect things as we go. And it's like, the first show was rough. Second show was rough. By about the fifth or sixth one, it's getting a little better, but it's like, we're still trying to figure out how to refine it and make it better. And it's like, I don't care if we have a perfect show by any means, but I want to be able to move forward and be more professional, and that's where it kind of sucks. And the Portland industry is, it's like, there's a lot of, I call it the mecca of mediocrity. It's like, what's the bare minimum that I got to do to scrape by, or to get the gig, or to be better than the next guy? I just want to hit that bare minimum. And it's like, I don't want to do that, and there's a couple other guys that are doing the live streaming things. And it's like, that's not our competition. we need to strive more for like the Letterman show or, you know, that national level. That's where we want to be. As long as we're headed in that direction, I'm cool. But it's just going to take work to refine it and build it.
Dude, you can't be the best at something the first time you try it. Like, think about the first time. How long did it take you to get good at playing guitar? Years.
Still working on it.
Right? Me too. I've been playing guitar for 20 years or something. I can play the shit out of a guitar, but I'm not an expert.
Nope.
Like, you have to do it over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's what it is. Like,
I remember when I started doing sound, probably about the first 6 months, I was doing nothing but monitors. Then all of a sudden, the guy that was doing front of house, he had another gig. And so I come in and they're like, oh, you're doing front of house. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable for this. But, you know, it's like, all right, I've been doing monitors. So it's like, it's 5 different front of houses versus just one. This should be okay. Yeah. I remember at the end of the show, the guy came and I'm talking to my boss right next to me. And this guy comes over shaking his finger at my boss's face. He goes, I don't appreciate you training your flunkies during our fucking set. And I'm just like, I'm never going to do sound again.
Yeah.
And I've destroyed some shows learning how to do it.
Me too.
But it's like, you have to fail to learn how to succeed.
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple years ago, I got a gig at the amphitheater. And I'm like, this is cool.
At the Gorge? Or sorry,
Ridgefield.
Clark County?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was basically kind of the house tech. And I'm like, this is cool. I can kind of kick it here for a while. This is kind of, you know, the level I want. So it was during graduation season. Mm-hmm. So we're doing like all these graduations and stuff. And we had this one where these bagpipers come in and go to the front of the stage, and then all the kids are following in and, you know, sitting in the chairs or whatever. And so I had like some mics above the bagpipes and kind of below, and it's like, oh, I want a little bit more of that low end. So I went to go turn that up a little bit. Well, on my board, all the auxes are over here. This board, they're over here. These are presets. I don't know what the fuck this preset was. I hit that thing. Everything went to 100%. 8,500 people in that place.
Oh, man.
And it's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. Still making mistakes. Yay me.
Dude, that's great. There's this awesome story of Billy and Rick were out at the Gorge. And I can't remember if it was for Sasquatch or something else. But the audio engineer had some sort of digital console, like a Digio 2 or something. Or what does Pro Tools make? Digi what? Some sort of Avid console.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Where you could load presets, right?
Right.
And so the previous band had a different preset, and the new guy showed up to load the preset, and he loaded it. Nothing was set up correctly. And dude, it was some 90s band A-list, like not Nickelback or something, but like something pretty like Puddle of Mud or something like that. And the entire preset was fucked. And so the guy basically had to go through inputs during the live show. And so he's checking like the kick level while they're playing a song for the whole crowd. And then like a minute later he moves to the snare, and then like the song ends, and a minute later he moves to the hat. Like everything was completely gone, and the show's just happening.
It's weird because it's like when I first started, I was working with salsa bands, so 13, 16 piece bands. They don't sound check. They just come in. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Mm-hmm. So it's like I kind of get a good idea of what they wanted in their monitors. And then as they start playing, it's just like I'm spinning knobs and, so I got really good really fast. And So when stuff like that happens, it's like, all right, I know how to just make it happen right now.
Yeah.
And at least get a good basic and then kind of come back to it and refine it. Sit there for a minute.
Oh, dude.
On a kick drum, it's like...
Rick said it was painful.
Oh,
like, so painful. And, dude, it reminds me of the show when I did one for you and Howie was there. And it was at, what's the club that was on?
The Refectory.
Refectory?
Yeah.
Right? Dude, some 4-piece, they were like country rock. And they showed up and I didn't have time to get them ready beforehand. And so I just had to go right then. And it wasn't that bad. Like, it was fine, whatever. But he comes over and he's got a drink the whole time. He's like, what's going on, man? What's going on? Why can't I hear this? Why can't I hear the guitar? What's going on? I'm like, dude, just give me a second. I'm going to figure it out.
Was that Chad Williams?
It might have been Chad Williams. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah. But he was all over me, dude.
You know what? But it's those gigs that it builds your character, and you know,
Dude,
and you either learn from it or you're done. I remember doing this gig at the Paris. My buddy called me. He's like, "Hey, we're opening up for Faster Pussycat. Can you come do sound for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, no problem." So I go down. The sound guy he was like halfway through sound check with Faster Pussycat. And I'm like, ugh, that sounds horrible. Whatever, not my gig. So then I did sound, I'm doing sound checking my buddy's band because they're up first. And he's like, hey, so then their sound guy comes over and he's like, hey, can you kind of turn it down? I don't want you to, blow out the headliner. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I did sound for them. They sound great. Get them done. I'm out. So the next two bands, I think he kept my presets on, or at least like my EQ settings or whatever. They sounded okay. Then Faster Pussycat came up and he recalled their preset, and it was just feeding back all over the place. And then I think by the second song, the singer was like, "You're the worst sound guy we've ever had. What is wrong?" And it's like, oh my God, these guys have been like touring for like 35 years. It's like, ow. Well, he's going to learn.
He said that into the mic to the PA to everybody.
And I was like, man, that poor kid. He's either going to quit this industry or he's going to go, okay, I need to learn from this.
There's nothing like getting embarrassed to make you reevaluate your life.
Oh, and I've had it so many times,
dude.
And it's like, I feel pretty confident when I go out and do sound now that I'm going to make it sound good and that I'm going to do a good job. But it took a lot of failures and times where it's just like feedback's coming out of nowhere. What's going on? I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Dude, that's the thing. That's the thing I tell everybody about a live event. Video, it's not that hard.
No.
You can set it up beforehand. If it's all good before the show, it's going to be fine. Lighting, as far as I know.
As long as it doesn't go dark.
As long as it doesn't go dark, it's fine. Nobody really notices. Yeah. It's cool. Audio is the hardest. Everybody's ears are different. Everybody hears sounds differently. Every single spot in the room sounds different. You will get the most complaints about the audio in any venue ever. It's I remember fucking hard, dude.
I remember doing this gig at the art museum, and I don't even remember what the band was. And I'm like, this is like the best mix I've had in a long time. This sounds amazing. And the client comes over, it sounds like crap. Can you turn it down? Okay.
Yeah, it just ruined my life.
I thought I was doing a pretty good job. But, it's so subjective. Yeah. And, and everybody's got their own idea on what they need to do. And, it's like, I've been out to clubs so many times and it's like, it sounds like shit, go fix it. It's not my gig, and it's like, that's the last thing they need when they're struggling is to have another person up their ass.
Exactly.
I've been that guy, it's like.
No, especially when you're doing a club gig and like the violinist girlfriend is coming up to you. I can't hear violin. Can you put more violin in the mix?
See, and that's
It's
where
like,
I think I've learned to be
dude.
snarky and just sarcastic. And it's like, it's for the best. He's not playing real good tonight.
You can never mix it correctly for all the girlfriends in the room. It's
Never.
annoying.
Oh, well, so it's funny. So we're doing this this live stream concert, and one of the bands ended up bringing like a couple of their girlfriends or wives or whatever. And so they're doing sound check, and it's like, oh, he's got to come way up. It's like, there's no mains. This is all going straight to the internet. Those are just monitors for them. You're not going to hear anything. Well, I can't hear him. Well, that's the point.
Yeah. I haven't experienced that one yet. That's a good one. This is not what you're going to be hearing.
Yeah.
You got to go get it on the internet. You'll hear it.
Go outside.
Yeah, dude, it's hard. It's very hard. That's why I quit doing it.
You know, and I love doing it. You know, and I love the challenge of it. But I think that I've got to the point where it started getting boring for me. And it's like, I needed a new challenge. Yeah. And it's like, that's why I started getting into lighting. And it's like, okay, well, now I understand lighting real good. And, you know, it's like some of the stuff that we're doing on this live stream show, I'm like, some pro shit. I'm doing a good job. All right. Well, I need to learn a little bit more about the video side. And it's like, I'm always looking for that next challenge, you know, to grow as a person and as a production guy. And, you know, and it's like, especially with everything changing right now, it's like, how do you do live stream? All right. Well, I'm going to learn it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we do. There's new stuff coming out every year that you have to purchase, read the manual, figure out how it works.
Manual? What do you mean manual?
What's that?
That you just screw around with it till you figure it out.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, anytime somebody, like a family member or something, is like, hey, how do I do this on my computer? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. I just Google it.
Yeah.
That's how I learn everything.
Can you install my car stereo?
Maybe, but I don't want to.
Yeah. That's not what I do. And that's always the frustration about this business is it's like, so what do you do? Can you DJ my friend's wedding? No, that's not
I can, but
I could, but I don't
want to.
You know, that's where it's funny because it's like I get calls every once in a while. It's like, hey, can you DJ a wedding? Or how much you charge for? It's not really my thing. Well, how much you charge to do it? All right. Well, if you make it worth my while, we'll do it.
Am
sure.
I going to get food?
Right.
And booze? Yeah. All right, dude. Well, 2.5 hours. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, dude.
I mean, it's kind of like we're at work again.
Pretty much.
That's where it's been, you know, and I thought about this. It's like, it's been really weird because it's like, for what, a decade we were working together between the art museum and the convention center. And
dude, I was at the convention center. You got hired. I have this vivid memory of hanging out and talking to you in the, forget what we called it. Something dead case storage or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
We're hanging out in there, and then I went to the art museum. Then you came over to the art museum, and then, dude, I saw you every day, all the time.
Yeah.
For years.
Right.
And then when I left, that's when I stopped seeing you, and that was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, right about that.
Yeah. But, dude, been hanging out with you for a long time.
Absolutely.
Since like 2008, probably.
I'm trying to think. So it was so weird because it's like, it was kind of a play on numbers. I remember my dad passed away in June 4th or June 7th, 2004. Mm-hmm. And I got hired on it at the convention center June 4th, 2007.
Okay. They just swapped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I started there May of 6. So I was there for like a year and then you got hired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you went to the art museum, I mean, you were there maybe month or two before you brought me in.
Not that long. Yeah. I got them to bring you on and Cassie and Luke. It was like
it's an all-star cast.
I know, it's like, who can we get? And we just pulled everybody from the convention center, and they're like, what?
And that's the cool thing about this business is it's like, you know, you really get to know people and their skills. And once you're able to work together, it's just like, I mean, if you put you, me, Luke, and Cassie in a room, we could set shit in no time and it'd be flawless because we've worked together so much, and it would be so enjoyable because we love hanging out with each other. And, you know, and that's where, I mean, work is work, but if you can figure out how to work with the people that you love working with, it just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then to see cool sets that we make, it's awesome, you know, and it's like, I wouldn't change this business for anything, you know, and I'm so thankful for the people that I've been able to work with along the way and, you know, build those friendships. And
dude, awesome. Think about all the crazy people we've met in the last 20 years. Like the most insane personalities.
Ravi.
Fucking Ravi, dude.
Love that guy.
I love that guy too.
And that's the thing, is that there's been so many people along the way that, you know, it's like they've brought their own uniqueness to the table. And
yeah, dude, like Seth.
Yeah.
Or Drew. Dude, I haven't talked to either of those guys in 10 or 15 years. Like, there's so many people we hung out with and worked with every day.
Yeah.
They were just like weird, eccentric artists, you know? And who knows what they're doing now. It's so crazy. All the people that we worked with, this was not their job. This was the thing that they did while they were trying to fund their side project, you know, or their real project.
Exactly.
You know? It's pretty crazy.
It is really crazy. And, you know, it's been such a good time.
Yeah.
You know, when it really comes down to it, it's like, there's been frustrations. I mean, definitely, you know, it's a job, you know, you're going to have your bad days and, you know, your Rod Walkers and
dude, I was wondering if you were going to bring him up. I'm going to reach out to him and hopefully get him to come hang out with me. Awesome. I haven't talked to him in a long time, dude.
Nice.
He's got some really cool stories. He never really got into it that deeply, but dude, he used to work for some record label. And
over in Hawaii, right?
Right? Yeah. And he hung out with the Chili Peppers.
Right.
He was responsible for them for a couple days. Like I think he's got some stories.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I want to get him over here.
Should get Chuck too.
Yeah.
Chuck's. I ran into him a few months ago at Pro Sound. And yeah.
He's a cool guy.
He's a good guy.
I saw him sometime in the last year because he's out at Expo. But he's a cool guy. I like him too. Yeah, dude. We have interacted with some very interesting individuals.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, dude. Cool.
Been a good chat.
Yeah. Glad you did it with me.
You too.